The massive training complex of the Galactic Defense Alliance hummed with anticipation. Rows of alien recruits from a dozen different star systems stood in precise formations, their bodies ranging from crystalline humanoids to massive reptilian warriors. Among them, a small group of human recruits looked almost out of place. Instructor Juan watched carefully, his cybernetic eye scanning the newest arrivals. The human contingent was different. They didn't march like the others. They moved with a fluid grace that spoke of something more than military training, something wild and unpredictable. Recruit Jae Kim stood near the center of the human group. She was shorter than most, with dark hair pulled tightly back and eyes that seemed to take in every detail of the massive training ground. Around her, alien recruits towered and whispered. "Humans?" A tall Krell warrior mumbled to his companion. "They look like children playing soldier." The Krell's companion chuckled, a sound like grinding rocks. "Watch, they'll be gone by the first training module." But something about Jae suggested otherwise. Her stance was relaxed yet alert, her muscles coiled like springs. She had been selected from thousands of Earth's most rigorous training programs, a fact unknown to most of the alien observers. The first test was simple. A complex terrain simulation that would challenge spatial awareness, tactical thinking, and physical endurance. Most species had predictable approaches. The crystalline Nordans would use their telepathic coordination. The Krell would rely on brute strength. The insectoid hive mind would move as a single synchronized unit. The humans would be different. As the simulation began, holographic terrain erupted around the recruits. Jungle-like environments with hidden threats, sudden environmental changes, and multiple attack vectors materialized. Most recruits froze, analyzing their options. The human team moved. Jae signaled with barely perceptible hand movements. Two recruits immediately broke into different directions, not running randomly but with calculated precision. They weren't moving as a standard military unit. They moved like something else, something more primal. The Krell instructor monitoring. The simulation leaned forward, his initial mockery turning to confusion. Jae's team wasn't following any standard tactical manual. They were reading the terrain like living sensors. One recruit used a piece of broken holographic equipment as an impromptu shield. Another created a quick communication network using hand signals that seemed almost invisible. Within minutes, they had mapped the entire simulation space, identified multiple hidden threat zones, and created a fluid defensive strategy that adapted faster than the simulation could change. The alien observers went silent. This wasn't just training. This was something else entirely. Juan noticed how the humans moved. They didn't rely on technology or predetermined strategies. They used something more fundamental: adaptability. Each movement was a calculation. Each decision, a living strategy that changed in milliseconds. One of the senior alien commanders approached Juan. "You're humans," he said. "They're different." Juan simply nodded. He knew what they represented: generations of survival from a planet that was essentially a pressure cooker of evolutionary adaptation. Earth wasn't just a planet, it was a crucible that had forged a species capable of surviving anywhere. The first training module ended. While other recruit teams looked exhausted, the humans looked alive. Their eyes were bright, their movements still fluid. They weren't celebrating. They were already analyzing, already thinking about the next challenge. The Krell warriors who had mocked them earlier now watched with a mixture of respect and something else, a hint of fear. Jae caught Juan's eye and gave a slight nod. No words, just a moment of understanding. The Galactic Defense Alliance had invited humans expecting standard soldiers. What they were getting was something entirely unexpected, a species that didn't just adapt to challenges, but transformed them. The training had only just begun. The second training module arrived with a silence that felt heavy with expectation. Alien instructors watched the human recruits with a mix of curiosity and lingering skepticism. The simulation today was different, a complex scenario designed to test multi-species tactical coordination. Jae Kim stood with her team, 6 humans selected from thousands of potential candidates. Around them, recruits from 15 different alien species prepared for the challenge. Holographic displays flickered, showing a terrain that mimicked a war-torn planetary landscape with multiple environmental hazards. The first challenge seemed simple: cross a dangerous zone while protecting a critical communication relay. Most alien teams approached this methodically. The Nordans used their telepathic link. The Krell warriors relied on overwhelming physical presence. The insectoid hive mind moved as a single, synchronized unit. The human team moved differently. Recruit Min, a former mountain rescue specialist, was the first to notice something the others missed. The terrain wasn't just a challenge. It was a living system of potential advantages and dangers. Where others saw obstacles, he saw opportunities. Split into pairs, Jay whispered, her voice barely audible. The team divided without hesitation. No long discussions, no complex planning. Just immediate fluid adaptation. One pair took the high ground using improvised camouflage techniques that seemed to make them almost invisible. Another pair moved along the lower terrain using broken landscape features as natural shields. They weren't following any standard military manual. They were reading the environment like living sensors. The alien observers began to lean forward. Midway, through the simulation, something unexpected happened. A sudden environmental shift that would have completely disrupted most teams became an opportunity for the humans. Where others would have frozen or retreated, they advanced. Recruit Sung used a piece of broken equipment as an improvised communication device. Another team member, Hyun, created a quick tactical map using nothing more than some scattered rocks and a handheld scanner. Their communication was so subtle that it seemed almost telepathic. The Krell instructor monitoring the simulation felt a growing sense of unease. These weren't just soldiers. They were something else entirely. They're not following any protocol, one alien commander muttered. But that was precisely the point. The humans weren't bound by traditional tactical thinking. They were creating strategies in real time, adapting faster than the simulation could change. When a massive holographic energy wave was supposed to eliminate their team, the humans didn't just survive. They used the wave's energy to mask their movement, turning a potential destruction point into a tactical advantage. Jay moved, like water, her body understanding the terrain in a way that seemed almost supernatural. She wasn't just avoiding danger, she was transforming it into an opportunity. The simulation was designed to test coordination, but the humans weren't just coordinating, they were communicating on a level that transcended standard communication. A slight hand movement, a quick glance, a barely perceptible nod. Each was a complex message. As the training module reached its final stages, something remarkable happened. The human team not only completed the mission but did so with the efficiency that left the alien instructors speechless. They hadn't just crossed the dangerous zone, they had reimagined it. The communication relay they were supposed to protect, they didn't just guard it. They had integrated it into their tactical approach, using its technology in ways the original designers never imagined. When the simulation ended, the humans looked fresh. No exhaustion, no celebration. Just a quiet assessment of what they had just accomplished. The alien recruit stared. The instructors remained silent. Juan, watching from the observation deck, allowed himself a small smile. This was why humans had been selected, not because they were the strongest, not because they had the best technology, but because they could look at a challenge and see possibilities where others saw only obstacles. The Galactic Defense Alliance had invited humans expecting standard soldiers. They were getting something far more dangerous, a species that didn't just adapt to challenges, but transformed them. The training was just beginning, and everything was about to change. The third training module arrived with a complexity that would have broken most military teams. A multi-layered combat scenario designed to test ultimate tactical adaptation, it promised to push every recruit to their absolute limit. Recruit Min Choi stood at the edge of a massive holographic battlefield. Around him, alien recruits from 15 different star systems prepared for what seemed like an impossible challenge. The terrain shifted constantly, Desert landscapes transforming into mountain ranges, urban environments collapsing into toxic wasteland zones. Most teams approached the scenario with traditional strategies. The Krell warriors prepared for direct confrontation. The Nordens synchronized their telepathic networks. The insectoid hive mind prepared for collective movement. Min was different. Where others saw a battlefield, he saw a living system of potential and opportunity. His background in environmental engineering gave him a unique perspective. He understood that every environment had weaknesses, every system had vulnerabilities. The simulation began with a massive energy surge that would typically disable most communication systems. While other teams panicked, Min's team transformed the challenge into an advantage. Recruit Hyun quickly modified their communication devices, using the energy surge's frequency to create an improvised signal that was actually more powerful than their original system. She wasn't just surviving the challenge, she was using it. Min moved with a calm that seemed almost supernatural. He wasn't fighting the simulation. He was dancing with it. When a holographic enemy squadron appeared, most teams would have engaged directly. Min's team did something unexpected. They didn't fight. They disappeared. Using quick terrain analysis and improvised camouflage techniques, they became part of the landscape. One moment they were visible, the next they were gone. The alien instructors watching the simulation began to lean forward, their previous mockery turning into genuine confusion. "What are they doing?" a Krell commander muttered. The human team wasn't just avoiding conflict. They were reshaping the entire tactical approach. Where others saw combat as direct confrontation, they saw it as a complex system to be manipulated. Recruit J used broken equipment as an improvised sensor array. Another team member created a communication network, using nothing more than scattered rocks and a handheld scanner. Their approach wasn't about technology. It was about understanding. Midway through the simulation, something remarkable happened. The human team didn't just survive. They began to control the entire battlefield. Their movements were so fluid, so adaptive, that the simulation's artificial intelligence began to struggle. They weren't following any standard combat protocol. They were creating strategies faster than the system could analyze them. A massive energy wave designed to eliminate their team became their weapon. Where others would have been destroyed, they used the wave's frequency to mask their movement, turning a potential death zone into a tactical advantage. The alien observers went silent. This wasn't just training. This was something else entirely. Min understood something fundamental that most military systems missed. Combat wasn't about strength. It was about understanding. About seeing possibilities where others saw only obstacles. When the simulation reached its final stage, the human team had done the impossible. They hadn't just completed the mission. They had reimagined what a mission could be. The communication relay they were protecting, they didn't just guard it. They had transformed it into a complex tactical system that anticipated threats before they emerged. As the simulation ended, the human team looked calm. No celebration, no excitement, just a quiet assessment of what they had accomplished. The alien recruits stared in disbelief. The instructors remained speechless. Juan, watching from the observation deck, allowed himself a small smile. This was why humans had been selected. Not because they were the strongest. Not because they had the best technology, but because they could look at a challenge and see an opportunity. The Galactic Defense Alliance had invited humans expecting standard soldiers. They were getting something far more dangerous. A species that didn't just adapt to challenges, but transformed them. The training was revealing something profound. Humans weren't just another species, they were something else entirely. And the universe was about to find out exactly what that meant. The evaluation day arrived with a tension that could be cut with a knife. Representatives from 15 different galactic civilizations gathered in a massive circular chamber, their eyes fixed on the human recruits who stood quietly at the center. Instructor Juan watched carefully. This wasn't just a standard assessment. This was a moment that would potentially change everything. The first part of the evaluation focused on technological adaptation. Most species presented complex technological solutions, The Nordens showed intricate quantum communication networks. The Krell demonstrated advanced weapon systems. The insectoid hive mind presented synchronized battle algorithms. The humans were different. Recruit J. Kim stepped forward with nothing more than a simple handheld device and some scattered equipment. Where others brought complex machines, she brought something more fundamental: pure human adaptability. Her demonstration began simply. She took the broken equipment from their previous training missions and started reconstructing them. But this wasn't just repair. It was transformation. A damaged communication relay became an advanced sensor array. Broken weapon components were redesigned into a multi-purpose survival tool. Each movement was calculated, each decision precise. The alien observers started to lean forward. Min Choi followed, demonstrating how humans approached problem-solving. He didn't just show a solution, he showed the process of creating solutions. Where other species had fixed approaches, humans had something more powerful: pure adaptive thinking. The psychological evaluation came next. Most species believed in standardized testing: measure, calculate, predict. But humans introduced something unexpected: unpredictability as a strategic advantage. Recruit Hyun's psychological assessment revealed something profound. Humans didn't just respond to challenges. They anticipated them. Their minds worked like living, breathing tactical systems that could reshape themselves in milliseconds. The physical tests pushed every boundary. While other species had specific physical advantages, the Krell with their massive strength, the Nordens with their regenerative abilities, humans showed something different. They didn't have the strongest bodies, but they had the most adaptable ones. One test required surviving in multiple extreme environments. The Krell expected to dominate. Instead, the human team showed something remarkable. They didn't just survive. They understood. A desert scenario became an opportunity to create water, collection systems. A freezing environment became a chance to demonstrate advanced thermal management. Each challenge wasn't a problem. It was a possibility. The alien representatives began whispering among themselves. This wasn't just another species applying for galactic defense training. This was something else entirely. By the final assessment, something had changed. The initial mockery had transformed into a mixture of respect and something else, a hint of concern. Hwan understood what was happening. Humans weren't just presenting themselves as a potential military asset. They were demonstrating something more fundamental, a way of thinking that could reshape entire strategic approaches. The evaluation concluded with a presentation that left the chamber silent. The human team didn't boast. They didn't celebrate. They simply showed what they could. One of the senior alien commanders approached Hwan. "You're humans," he said. "They're not like anything we've ever seen." Hwan simply nodded. He knew what they represented: a species forged by a planet that was essentially a constant survival challenge. Earth wasn't just a planet. It was a crucible of adaptation. The final scores came in. The humans hadn't just passed. They had redefined what passing could mean. Recruit J caught Hwan's eye and gave a slight nod. No words were needed. Just a moment of shared understanding. The Galactic Defense Alliance had invited humans expecting standard soldiers. What they were getting was something far more dangerous. A species that didn't just adapt to challenges, but transformed them. The universe was about to change, and nobody was prepared for what was coming. The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as the human delegation entered. 15 different alien civilizations sat in a massive circular arrangement, their representatives wearing elaborate diplomatic attire. In contrast, the human team wore simple, functional uniforms that seemed almost plain. Recruit J. Kim stood at the center, her posture relaxed but alert. Behind her, Min Choi and Hyun remained calm, their eyes taking in every detail of the massive chamber. This wasn't just a meeting. This was a moment that would potentially reshape galactic military doctrine. The Norden Supreme Diplomat spoke first. His crystalline body shifted with each word, a complex language of movement and light. Humans have demonstrated capabilities beyond our initial understanding, he began, his voice a mixture of electronic tones and organic resonance. The Krell representative, massive and scaled, leaned forward. Where most would have shown aggression, he showed something different. Respect. Juan watched from the observation deck, understanding the significance of this moment. Humans weren't just being evaluated, they were being recognized as something more than just another species in the vast galactic community. The presentation began with a comprehensive review of human performance. Each training simulation, each challenge was displayed in holographic detail. The alien representatives saw something they had never witnessed before, a species that didn't just solve problems, but transformed them. Min Choi stepped forward to explain their approach. His presentation wasn't about technical details, it was about understanding. He showed how humans viewed challenges, not as obstacles, but as opportunities for innovation. A holographic display showed how they had repurposed broken equipment. During training, a damaged communication device became an advanced sensor array. Broken weapon components transformed into multi-purpose survival tools. The hive mind representative, a collective consciousness representing billions of individual units, processed the information differently. Where others saw individual actions, they saw a complex system of adaptation. Hyun demonstrated their psychological approach. It wasn't about individual heroism. It was about collective intelligence. Each team member became a living sensor, constantly analyzing and adapting. The most profound moment came unexpectedly. Instead of boasting about their achievements, the human team showed their vulnerability. They explained how their adaptation came from survival, from a planet that constantly challenged their existence. Earth wasn't just a planet. It was a constant test of survival. The alien civilizations began to understand something fundamental. Humans weren't just another species seeking galactic recognition. They were a completely different approach to existence. Where other species had specialized abilities, humans had something more powerful: pure adaptability. The Krell commander who had once mocked them now spoke with genuine respect. They are not soldiers, he said. They are living tactical systems. As the presentation concluded, something remarkable happened. The initial diplomatic formality transformed into genuine interest. Questions flew from every delegation, not about human weaknesses, but about their approach to problem-solving. Jay answered each question with a calm precision that seemed almost supernatural. She didn't just respond. She transformed each query into an opportunity for deeper understanding. Juan realized they had done more than pass a training program. They had introduced a new way of thinking to the galactic community. The final vote was unanimous. Humans would not just be accepted into the Galactic Defense Alliance. They would be studied, understood, integrated. As the human team left the chamber, they didn't celebrate. They didn't show excitement. They simply understood that this was just the beginning. The universe had been waiting for something new, something different. Humans had arrived, and everything was about to change.